Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got a gun on the table that's as much for show as it is for go. It's a Colt 1911 Government Series. They've marked it as the Mark IV, and it's a 70 Series 1911. The finish that you're seeing they call the brushed stainless, but it's a combination of shiny as well as the matte finish. So I'm going to pick the gun up, show you a few things about it, and tell you a few things about it. We'll start with, of course, confirming that it is unloaded. So we do have an unloaded weapon. This is a full-size Government Series 1911, so that it's 8.5 inches long, 5.5 inches tall, and 1.25 inches thick. So it's a full-size 5-inch barrel, just like any of the original Government Series 1911s. They've done a lot of touches on this gun to make it a much more attractive gun, but functionally it's the same. You'll see that the sides, everything that's flat on the sides is very highly polished steel. The slide is stainless steel, the barrel is stainless steel, and the frame is carbon steel. And in all the trim areas, underneath here and on the top, it's a matte finish that they call brushed stainless. And they've also carried that forward to the trigger guard, the mag release, the slide release, and the safety, as well as the serrations. So there's been a lot of attention to detail on this gun to make it not only a functional gun, this thing has worked flawlessly since the first round we put through it, but to also make it a very nice looking gun. It has checkered rosewood grips that are of course interchangeable. They're standard 1911 grips, but I really do like these grips, so I have no intention of changing it. The front strap is smooth, but it does have that brushed finish, so it's not slippery. There's no texture or serration on it, but when you grab a hold of it, it's not a polished, slippery metal. And you'll see that that brushed stainless actually even carries forward into the mag well, the base of it, as well as the back strap. So the back strap does have some serration on it, and it does have a little bit of a hump. It's not completely flat, so it's a little bit of a hump. But the grip safety is perfectly flat and smooth. And with my hands, I really do prefer that. My hands, when I grip a hold of one of the 80 series or one of the ones that has a little hump on them that's designed to ensure that it is depressed, it bites into my thumb. And the meaty part of my hand that operates the thumb. And this doesn't do that. I didn't have a single misfire though caused by it not disengaging. When I get a hold of a grip, you can actually hear it clicking. It's disengaging flawlessly, and it's very smooth. The safety is easily operated with the thumb, and of course as a 1911 you can only operate the safety when it's in the cocked position, and you also can't cycle the slide when the safety's on. The original 1911 design was meant to be carried cocked and locked, with the hammer all the way back, live round in the chamber, and the safety in the safe position. It is very easy to just swipe it with your thumb and disconnect it, so that disabling the safety is very, very easy to do. But you'll note if you have the safety on, the slide is locked. And if the safety were off, and I had the hammer down, I can't put the safety on. Now, of course, it is a single action only gun. If it's not cocked, the trigger is dead. So that you either would have to cycle it, or this one does have the spur on the hammer, which makes it relatively easy to cock the hammer manually. But again, that's not how this gun is actually designed to be operated. The sights are they're what they call high profile, and they're all blackout. Front sight and rear sight are both black. You can barely see the front sight, and with this gray background that I've got, it just kind of disappears. It has a habit of doing that on the range as well. I'm going to have to do something with the sights. I find it difficult to see them. And this is one interesting note on this gun. The Colt website has got 2 errors on it. One of the errors on the website is that it listed it as a 3-dot sight. So 2 dots on the rear sight, dot on the front sight. When the gun came in, it had these flat black sights. So we called them, and after numerous holds and transfers, the response was, "Yep, sorry, the website's wrong." And that was the end of it. Just get over it. The website's wrong. And today, when I printed out the document from the website to make sure I had all the information correct, I noticed that the document no longer says 3-dot sights. So they did change that, but I wasn't really overly happy with the response of just, "Oop, the site's wrong, get over it," which was basically the gist of it. Another thing that you'll find that's wrong on the site currently, they'll probably change it as soon as they hear about it, is it lists in 2 places on the document as a 7-round magazine. And it is a very nice, very smooth, streamlined, 1911 style magazine, but it's an 8-round. And both magazines that come with it are 8-round. It does come with 2 magazines. And I did confirm I can load 8 rounds into the magazine. So in this case the site was wrong, but it was in our benefit. We're getting a better magazine than the site. And that unfortunately seems to be typical in the firearms world, is that firearms which really are based on specifications, and the specifications matter, unfortunately manufacturers' websites are frequently wrong, which is a little bit frustrating, especially if you're relying on them to order one. Despite all that, I'm simply going to probably paint the sights. I'll get some sight paint and either do a 3-dot arrangement or a U-dot arrangement. The sights themselves, the rear sight can be changed, it's dovetailed. And the front sight is pinned. I'm pretty sure it's a small tenon pinned front sight, or staked actually. And it can be changed, but you need a staking tool to change it. And my biggest concern with trying to change it is these matte finishes are easily damaged, and once you scuff these up, it's real hard to hide your mistake. So rather than change the sights, I'm going to try the sight paint first and see if I can get some dots on it and make it easy to see. I did find that once I figured out how to work with the sights, being dark, the gun actually shoots very well, and it's easy to put rounds on target, and it's easy to group well. It's just, if you can't see the sights, it's a little harder to put them in exactly where you want the rounds. But it's a very nice gun at 37.5 ounces. It's a relatively heavy gun. It does an excellent job of absorbing the recoil of 45 ACP. It doesn't beat your hand up. This is real smooth and does not pound into your hand. It doesn't excessively flip. I found it a very comfortable gun to shoot, and it's really a pleasant gun. And I'll note on that 37.5 ounces, I'm going based on the manufacturers. I didn't weigh the gun. I probably should with as good as their specs are. A couple other things of note. It does have a metal trigger, and it's not a drilled lightened trigger. The trigger is really short and really crisp. They list it as 4.5 to 6 pounds, but it's much lighter than that, and it's much smoother. It's a very short break. So we do have an unloaded weapon, of course. A little bit of take up, but it's really minimal. You're onto the wall, and then that's all the movement you've got before it breaks. So it's a very nice trigger. And one of the things you'll find is that people comparing it to a 70 series to an 80 series. I'll also show you the reset. That's the reset. Very short reset, and then again a very short break. The people that are really into 1911s will say that a 70 series has a nicer trigger than an 80 series. And I could readily believe that, because without the extra moving parts necessary to move the piston, effectively the trigger is nothing but a sear brake. So the next thing I'll do, and let me show you the other side. I haven't really showed you the other side of the gun. The other side is similar in construction to the other front side. It's all smooth and polished on the flat parts, and you have the brushed stainless texture on the trigger guard as well as the serrations. So it's a very nice looking gun. This is one of the types of guns like you might see in the Kimber series and things like that. Highly polished and very nice looking, but also very functional. Let's go ahead and get this thing disassembled so I can show you the internals of it. I'll start, of course, with checking to make sure that it's clear, which also cocks the hammer, which will help us with the rest of the process of disassembling the slide. Push down on the spring retainer, rotate the barrel bushing to free the spring retainer, and then I'm going to remove the spring retainer, but I'm going to leave the spring in there, and then rotate the barrel bushing back the other way so that I can remove it. Then at this point I can slide the slide back, line up that half moon so that I can remove the takedown pin, and I can slide the gun apart. So I've got the slide, that's what it looks like when it's set together. So I've got a GI style guide rod in this gun, which is about half length. I prefer these over the full length because you don't need another set of tools to disassemble the guide rod just to go to the next step of disassembling the gun. It works by pushing down the spring retainer. I pull that assembly out. So I've got the spring and the guide rod, and I can pull those two apart if I need to clean them or replace something. Flip the lug forward. That'll be necessary to be able to slide the barrel. up out, and a lot of times you have to give it just a little push with your finger just to lift the barrel up a little bit so that it unlocks. It's got a very nice barrel. It's very well machined. It's very polished. It's a nice solid stainless steel barrel, and everything on it is well polished and machined. Everything's smooth. There's no rough edges as I work my way through it. And of course it's a 5-inch barrel, given that this is a standard full-size 1911. And we have similar situation with the slide. Very clean. There's very little in there, minimal parts. Since it's a 70 series, it doesn't have any components in here for a firing pin block, so there's really no extra things in there like you might see with a Glock. And everything in here is well machined, smooth, polished. One thing I did notice that I expected to have trouble with but didn't is the finish, the brushed stainless finish. If I can get it out, the brushed stainless finish is actually on the inside of the slide, and when I show you the frame, it's also on the frame rails. It makes it a hair rougher, and I almost expected to have some break-in issues with it, but there were none. It ran perfectly smooth, and I'm noticing there's no scuffing or anything, so that didn't affect it in any way. And it does kind of, when you're looking at it, make it look a little bit more polished and refined. It's more of a a well-finished piece. So I'll set the slide aside, and I show you the frame. Again, like the slide, there's very little going on in the frame. You've got the hammer back here. There are no extra things sticking up to operate any sort of external safeties, unlike the Glock and many of the Polymer Wonders that operate a number of automatic safeties. Your safety is here, and you've got the grip safety. They carry forward that brushed stainless finish inside the gun and on the rails, so it's continuous throughout the whole gun. So they didn't just cheap out and just do the quickie parts that are going to show. And of course, like on a 1911, the rails are full length, or as full length as you would get from a rail perspective on both sides. So you've got very good support for the slide. Let's go ahead and put this thing back together. Putting it together is relatively easy. It's just a reverse of the disassembly process. Slide the barrel back in. And that's a little different. If you're used to the Polymer Wonders, you slide the barrel in the other way. And then flip the lug up out of the way and put the guide rod back in. Now it's important to note the guide rod sits, it's kind of got a half moon shape on the bottom of it. You can see, get the light on it. And that sits on the barrel, and then the fully round part faces away from the barrel. And I want to flip the lug up. And there's different people who have different ways of doing it. I like to hold it upside down and then slide the frame onto it. I find that tends to be a lot easier, and you tend to have fewer things fall apart and get in your way. So now I've got it reassembled. The next thing I need to do is capture the barrel. So if you look through there, you can see my hand through there, you'll see that the barrel lug is not quite where I want it to be. I'll just want to move the barrel around, get that to be a full opening like that. Stick the pin through there. That'll capture the barrel and the barrel lug, so that as I'm going through the rest of the assembly process, I don't have a problem trying to get the barrel to be where I want it to be. So let's go ahead and finish the process, finish getting this put together. There's a little spring retainer here that's right there. You can see it by my finger. And that little spring retainer we're going to use to retain the takedown pin. And we're going to line it up. I'm going to end up having to just push it down where I can see it, because it's kind of difficult to do this, for the camera. Sometimes you use a little pick to push that retainer in. It'll make it just a hair easier to snap into place. And you want to avoid swinging it back and forth up against the frame and scratching the frame. So now let's go ahead and put the rest of it back together. Put the barrel bushing on. Rotate it around. Spring retainer in. Rotate the barrel bushing back. We now have a functioning 1911. Overall, this is a very nice gun. It's a nice looking gun. It's a well constructed gun. The Msrp comes in just under $1,000, so it's not an inexpensive gun, but you are getting a lot of gun for the money, and it is, if you're looking for a nice government style 1911, this would be a good choice. It's been reliable, it's fun to shoot, it's easy to shoot well. The only thing that, I was disappointed on was those sights, but we're going to fix that relatively easy with a little bit of sight paint, and it's just a really nice gun. So if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up share, subscribe, and have a great day. Thank you.